I stood frozen at the entrance of the wedding hall, my heart hammering against my ribs. My tuxedo, the one I had spent months picking out and tailoring to perfection, suddenly felt suffocating. The heat from the room pressed against my skin, but it wasn't the temperature. It was the weight of betrayal sinking deep into my bones. I had walked in, expecting to see my bride, Rachel, waiting for me at the altar, surrounded by friends and family, ready to start our lives together. Instead, I was greeted by her mother standing tall in the middle of the aisle, her smile sharp enough to slice through steel. "You're no longer needed," she said, tilting her head, her voice sickly sweet. I blinked, convinced I had misheard her. The murmurs in the hall grew louder as heads turned, eyes shifting between me and the woman who had just dismissed me like an uninvited guest at my own wedding. Then Rachel stepped beside her, her perfectly curled hair falling over one shoulder, her makeup pristine, her dress, the dress I had paid for, flowing around her like she was the queen of some twisted fairy tale. And yet, not a single flicker of guilt crossed her face. No hesitation, no second thoughts. "My alpha brother will take your place," she said, her tone dripping with something that made my stomach twist. My mind blanked for a second. The words didn't make sense. I had been with Rachel for years. I had planned this day down to the smallest detail. I had poured $15,000 into this wedding, making sure she had everything she wanted, everything she had dreamed of. And now she was telling me I had been replaced like a defective part? The whispers in the room grew into a wave of judgment. Some guests looked away, uncomfortable. Others stared at me, waiting for me to explode, to fight, to demand answers. Rachel's mother stepped forward, her smirk deepening. "You have two options," she said, her voice just loud enough for the guests to hear. "Leave, or take a seat in the audience and watch a real man marry my daughter." A real man? The insult cut deeper than I cared to admit. The rage burned hot, scorching through my veins, my fists clenching at my sides. I could feel my pulse in my throat, the taste of humiliation thick on my tongue. Every muscle in my body screamed for me to lash out, to make them regret this moment for the rest of their lives. But then I exhaled. Not yet. I looked Rachel in the eyes, searching for anything. Any sign that she realized what she was doing, any flicker of hesitation. But there was nothing. Just that smug satisfaction, the kind that came from knowing she had won. She thought I was weak. She thought I was broken. So I did the last thing they expected. I turned around and walked out. The gasps echoed through the hall. Rachel's mother's smug expression faltered, just for a moment. Rachel's lips parted slightly, as if she hadn't actually expected me to go through with it. Good. Let them think they had won. Let them revel in their so-called victory. Because the game had only just begun. An hour later, I sat in my car, parked in an empty lot. The tuxedo jacket had been thrown onto the passenger seat, my tie loosened, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The phone buzzed beside me. At first, I ignored it. I wasn't ready to hear whatever excuse, whatever pathetic justification Rachel or her family had cooked up. Then it rang again, and again. By the fourth time, I picked it up. The second I answered, I was met with screaming. Rachel's voice, frantic and shrill, cut through the speaker. "You ruined everything." I almost laughed. The sheer audacity of it. Me. My voice was eerily calm. I ruined everything? Rachel, you replaced me at my own wedding. You let your mother throw me out like I was nothing. And now, you have the nerve to call me? There was a stuttering breath on the other end, followed by more frantic yelling. The wedding is a mess. The guests are leaving. Nothing is going as planned. I leaned back in my seat, a slow smirk forming. Good, she shrieked. Matthew, you don't understand. No, Rachel. My voice hardened. You don't understand. But don't worry. You will soon. And then, before she could say another word, I hung up. As I sat there, the weight of the situation settled over me. Rachel and her family thought they had crushed me, that I would simply disappear, licking my wounds, while they carried on with their twisted version of a perfect day. They had no idea what was coming. I took a slow breath, my mind already spinning with the next steps. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. They wanted to play dirty? Fine. I would burn everything they built to the ground. Walking away wasn't an act of surrender. It was a strategic retreat. They thought they had one, that they had humiliated me beyond recovery. They had no idea who they were dealing with. As I drove through the city, my mind sharpened, the initial sting of betrayal transforming into something colder, something more dangerous. Rachel and her family had spent years treating me like I was an accessory to her life, something replaceable. They believed I was desperate for their approval, that I would bend over backward to prove I was good enough for them. They were wrong. I pulled into a quiet parking lot, my hands steady as I pulled out my phone. If they thought I was going to disappear, they were about to learn just how much of their perfect day was still under my control. I dialed the number of the venue manager. He answered after 2 rings. "Mr. Carter, everything going smoothly at the wedding?" I almost laughed at the irony. "Actually, I need you to cancel everything." Silence. "Excuse me?" "Shut it down. The catering, the flowers, the music, everything I paid for? Gone. Now." He hesitated. "Sir, the wedding is happening right now, not my wedding," I cut in. "If they want to replace me, let's see how they handle a wedding without my money." A long pause, then a careful question. "Should I process a refund to the original payment method?" I smirked. "No. No refunds." "Understood." As I hung up, I pictured the chaos about to unfold inside the venue. Rachel and her mother had stolen my wedding, thinking they could swap me out like a disposable piece of furniture. Let's see how they liked it when their dream wedding fell apart before their eyes. I wasn't done yet. I scrolled through my contacts and found the number for the catering service. The moment they picked up, I got straight to the point. "Cancel the food order." A surprised voice answered, "Sir, we're in the middle of delivery. Turn the trucks around. No food is to be served. And while you're at it, make sure they understand there's no refund coming." The manager hesitated. "Are you sure?" I could already imagine the guests sitting at their tables, waiting for the grand feast that would never come. "Very sure." Click. Next came the decorations. I had gone all out to make sure the wedding looked exactly how Rachel wanted. Every detail, from the floral arrangements to the silk table runners, had been meticulously chosen by her, using my money. I called the decorator. "Pull everything." A confused voice on the other end stammered, "Sir, the wedding is, I don't care. Pack it up. And if they give you trouble, tell them to take it up with me." I barely had time to enjoy the thought of Rachel standing in a half-empty wedding hall before I made my next move. "The DJ." The moment he answered, I gave the same instruction. "Cut the music. Pack your equipment and leave." He chuckled nervously. "This some kind of joke?" "Not at all. You're no longer needed." I could hear the hesitation, but money talks, and I was the one who had paid him. One by one, I dismantled every part of the wedding that I had built. By the time I was done, the entire event was nothing but an empty shell. Now, it was time to sit back and watch the collapse. I walked into a nearby cafe, ordered a coffee, and settled into a seat by the window. My phone, once buzzing with well wishes and excitement, was now flooded with calls from Rachel and her family. I ignored them all. Minutes turned into an hour. "You have to fix this." I took a slow sip of my coffee. "Fix what?" "Everything is falling apart. The guests are complaining. There's no food, no music, no decorations. Sounds like a terrible wedding," I mused. "Maybe you should ask your real man to handle it." There was silence on the other end. A pause so long that for a moment, I thought she had hung up. Then, she spoke, her voice lower now, pleading. "Matthew, please. We can talk about this later. Just fix it, okay? Call the vendors. Tell them there was a mistake. We can still salvage this." I chuckled. "Salvage it? Rachel, you threw me out of my own wedding. You expected me to sit quietly while you replaced me like a spare part. You thought I'd just disappear while you celebrated on my dime. But now, without me, you have nothing." "It wasn't my fault," she snapped, panic slipping into her voice. "It was my mother. She convinced me it was the right thing to do." "Oh, so you're just a puppet now?" I leaned back in my chair, twirling my spoon in my coffee cup. Poor Rachel, unable to think for herself. A grown woman letting mommy make her decisions. That's not. Let me ask you something. I cut in, my voice sharp now. When she told you to replace me, did you hesitate? Did you fight for me? Did you tell her no? Silence. I smirked. That's what I thought. I hung up before she could say another word. Meanwhile, back at the venue, the chaos only grew worse. Guests, expecting a luxurious feast, were now sitting at empty tables, muttering among themselves, checking their phones in confusion. Some of them tried to discreetly slip away. Others weren't so subtle, openly complaining as they left. Rachel's mother was in full meltdown mode, storming through the hall, demanding answers, barking orders at staff who had no idea what was going on. The best man, Rachel's so-called alpha brother, was pacing near the altar, looking around like a man realizing he had just walked into a burning building. Then, the DJ shut off his equipment and walked out. Then, the floral team started pulling down decorations. Then, the catering company arrived, not to serve food, but to pack up and leave. By the time Rachel realized how deep the damage went, she was standing in the middle of a half-empty hall, her perfect day crumbling around her. And that's when the guests started talking. The whispers started small. Wait, didn't she have a different fiancé? Wasn't Matthew supposed to be the groom? Where is he? Then, a few guests who had seen the exchange earlier started telling the truth. Her mother told him to leave. Kicked him out right at the entrance. What? Are you serious? Yeah, told him to join the audience if he wanted to watch someone else marry Rachel. Wait, so he was the one who paid for everything? Oh my God. Like wildfire, the rumors spread. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse for them, I got a message from an old friend who was still at the wedding. Friend, dude. Cops just showed up. I laughed so hard I almost spilled my coffee. Guests who had seen me get kicked out had started telling others, and before long, the entire hall was buzzing with the real story. The more people talked, the worse it got. Some were furious about what Rachel's family had done, while others just found the entire thing hilarious. But then, one guest, someone who had known me personally, decided to bring up something else. You know, I heard Matthew paid for everything. The venue, the food, the decorations. No way. Are you serious? Dead serious. Rachel's family didn't spend a dime. He funded it all. Wait, so you're telling me she kicked him out, replaced him, and expected to keep all his money? That was the moment everything shifted. People started leaving. One by one, guests began walking out of the venue, refusing to take part in the farce that Rachel and her family had tried to pass off as a wedding. Some stopped to confront Rachel's mother, calling her out for the stunt she had pulled. Others straight up laughed in Rachel's face. And then, someone had the brilliant idea to inform the police. It turned out, while reviewing my finances earlier, I had stumbled across several unauthorized transactions. Rachel's mother had been using my credit card behind my back. Luxury spa treatments, shopping sprees, and the worst part? A down payment on a car. I hadn't even had the time to report it myself yet, but thanks to the gossip spreading like wildfire, someone else had tipped off the authorities. The moment the police heard about credit card fraud at a wedding venue, they showed up to investigate. And now, Rachel's mother was stammering, panicked, and making a complete fool of herself in front of everyone. This is ridiculous, she hissed at the officer. Do you know who I am? The cop barely blinked. Ma'am, we received a report of financial fraud involving a large sum of money. We need to ask you a few questions. I leaned against my car, arms crossed, watching the entire thing unfold. That's when Rachel spotted me. Her expression twisted into something between desperation and rage. She stormed over, the weight of her dress dragging behind her like a symbol of her own downfall. Matthew, she snapped, tell them this is a mistake. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, a mistake? You mean the charges on my card? Or do you mean the fact that you replaced me at the altar and thought you'd get away with it? I didn't know about the credit card. It was my mother. And you expect me to believe that? I tilted my head. Rachel, when were you planning to tell me? Before or after you let your real man move into my house? Her breath hitched. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I chuckled, shaking my head. No, Rachel, it wasn't supposed to be like this for you. You thought you'd get everything you wanted, that I'd just disappear quietly. But you underestimated me. The officer turned to me. Sir, are you the card holder? I nodded. Yes. And I was about to file a fraud report myself. I have the receipts, the statements, everything you need. Rachel's mother whirled around, furious. You little rat. You're trying to ruin us. I smirked. No, ma'am. You ruined yourselves. The cop gave a tight-lipped nod. We'll need you to come down to the station later to finalize your report, sir. Of course, I said smoothly. Happy to help. Rachel looked like she was about to collapse. The wedding was ruined. Her mother was under police investigation. The guests had left in disgust. And the man who was supposed to take my place? I glanced around. He was nowhere to be found. As the police continued questioning Rachel's mother, Rachel just stood there, staring at the wreckage of what was supposed to be her perfect day. She turned to me one last time. Please. I shook my head. This is what you wanted, Rachel. Enjoy it. Then, without another word, I got into my car and drove off. This battle was over, but I wasn't done yet. I drove home, the echoes of Rachel's desperation still ringing in my ears. She had called after me like I was some lifeline she suddenly needed, but she had made her choice. She wanted to replace me. She wanted my money, but not me. And now, she had neither. As I pulled into my driveway, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was my lawyer. Matthew, I just got off the phone with the fraud department. The police flagged your case, and the bank confirmed unauthorized charges under your name. I smirked, unlocking my door and stepping inside. Let me guess, Rachel's mother? Correct, my lawyer replied. We're looking at nearly $20,000 in fraudulent transactions. The bank has already started an investigation. If you press charges, they'll move forward with legal action. I leaned against my kitchen counter, exhaling slowly. $20,000. That woman had stolen from me with zero hesitation, all while plotting to push me out of Rachel's life like I was disposable. I didn't even have to think about it. Press the charges. There was a pause. Are you sure? Positive, I said, my voice calm. She thought she could use me. She thought I was weak. Let's show her how wrong she was. My lawyer let out a low chuckle. Consider it done. The next morning, the real fallout began. News of Rachel's train wreck wedding had spread far beyond the venue. Social media had exploded with footage from guests who had recorded everything. A video of Rachel's mother yelling at the police. Another clip of guests walking out after learning the truth. And the best part? A photo of Rachel standing alone in her dress, abandoned at the altar, while her supposed real man had vanished from the scene. I couldn't have planned it better myself. My phone lit up again. Rachel was calling. I let it ring. Then came another. Her father. Ignored. Then another from an unknown number, probably her mother's desperate attempt to reach me. Not happening. That afternoon, my lawyer sent me an update. The charges have been filed. The fraud department is moving forward, and Rachel's mother is looking at criminal charges for financial theft. I smirked. Good. Let's see how well she handles being the center of attention now. She'll probably try to settle, my lawyer continued. She might even beg you to drop the charges. I leaned back in my chair. She'll learn that I don't forgive thieves. That same night, Rachel showed up at my house. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the best of me. I opened the door to find her standing there, her once pristine wedding dress now wrinkled, her hair a mess, her eyes swollen. For the first time since this all started, she actually looked nervous. Matthew, she started, her voice small. I crossed my arms. You shouldn't be here. I know, she admitted, her hands trembling slightly. I need to talk to you. I said nothing, waiting. She hesitated, then burst into tears. My mom is being investigated. My family is turning on each other. Everything is falling apart. Please, you have to stop this. I stared at her, unimpressed. I don't have to do anything, Rachel. Your family stole from me. Your mother used my money to fund her own lifestyle while treating me like trash. And you? You stood by and let it happen. She shook her head violently. I didn't know about the money, I swear. I raised an eyebrow. So, You're telling me your mother suddenly started buying luxury bags, spa treatments, and a brand new car, and you didn't ask where the money came from? She bit her lip, avoiding my eyes. I didn't think. I cut her off. That's the problem, Rachel. You never thought. You just took what you wanted and assumed there'd be no consequences. Her shoulders shook. Matthew, please. I know I hurt you. I know I made a mistake. But you're not like this. You're not cruel. I exhaled, shaking my head. Rachel, this isn't cruelty. This is justice. Her lips parted slightly, and for the first time, I saw the real fear in her eyes. I continued, my voice steady. Your mother thought she could take from me and get away with it. She was wrong. Your family thought I was weak. They were wrong. And you? You thought I'd sit back and watch while you humiliated me. You were wrong too. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. I can't fix this, she whispered. I don't know what to do. I gave her a cold, humorless smile. You made this mess, Rachel. Now you get to live with it. She let out a shaky breath. You're really going through with this? Every last step? Her tears fell harder. I never meant for it to go this far, I sighed. You meant for me to disappear quietly, but I didn't. She swallowed hard, wiping at her face. I guess I deserve this. I tilted my head. You do. Rachel stood there for a few more seconds, her chest rising and falling in unsteady breaths, before finally turning away and walking back to her car. I watched as she drove off, disappearing into the night. The battle was over, but the war wasn't finished yet. Her family's downfall was only just beginning. The days after Rachel's disastrous wedding felt like a turning point. The fallout was worse than even I had expected. The credit card fraud case was moving fast, and Rachel's mother was now the subject of a full financial investigation. Apparently, my case had opened up a much bigger issue, one that involved years of suspicious transactions. I couldn't have planned it better if I tried. Rachel, meanwhile, had gone completely silent. After our last conversation, I hadn't heard a word from her. No calls, no texts, nothing. It was like she had finally accepted the reality she had created for herself. Then, on the third day, she broke. I was at home, working on my laptop, when my phone buzzed. Rachel. I debated ignoring it. I owed her nothing, but something in me wanted to hear just how broken she had become. I answered. She didn't speak at first. All I could hear was her breathing, uneven, shaky. Then, in a whisper, Matthew, I don't know what to do. I leaned back in my chair. About what? A choked laugh. About everything. My family, my mom, my life. It's all falling apart. I stayed silent, waiting. She continued, her voice hoarse. My father won't talk to me. My brother blames me for everything. My mother is being questioned daily by the police. Reporters are calling our house. Our business partners are pulling out of deals. I smirked. That's rough. She sucked in a breath. Matthew, I lost everything. There it was. The realization. I let the silence stretch, let her feel the weight of her own words. Finally, I spoke. No, Rachel. You threw everything away. A soft sob came through the line. I don't know how it got this bad. I tilted my head, my voice cold. You don't? She sniffled. I made a mistake. I sighed. No, Rachel. You made a series of choices. You chose to betray me. You chose to listen to your mother. You chose to replace me at our wedding. And now, you're realizing what that means. She let out a shaky breath. I miss you, Matthew. I laughed. A deep, bitter laugh that made her suck in a breath. Miss me? I repeated. You mean you miss my money. You miss the stability. You miss knowing that, no matter what, I'd always be there to fix your messes. That's not true, she snapped. Isn't it? I asked calmly. Because if I were still the old Matthew, you'd be trying to convince me to help you right now. But you know I won't. And that terrifies you. She didn't respond. Good, I said, my voice like ice. Sit in that fear. Get comfortable with it. Because this is your new reality, Rachel. And I'm not part of it. She whimpered. I don't want to be alone. I smirked. You should have thought about that before you threw me away. And with that, I hung up. The news about Rachel's family only got worse. Their family business was in trouble. Investors were distancing themselves, not wanting to be associated with a fraud scandal. Even Rachel's father, who had tried to play innocent, was getting dragged into the mess. And Rachel? She was officially ruined. Her friends had abandoned her. The guests from the wedding had spread the full story of what she had done, and no one wanted to be associated with her anymore. Her own family blamed her for the disaster, claiming that if she had just married me, none of this would have happened. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. A week later, my lawyer called me again. "Matthew, we have a settlement offer." I raised an eyebrow. "From who?" "Rachel's mother." I let out a low whistle. "How desperate is she?" "Very." My lawyer sounded amused. "They want to offer you a financial settlement if you agree to drop the charges." I smirked. "How much?" $50,000. I almost laughed. She stole $20,000 from me and now wants to pay $50,000 just to make this go away? It's more than just the money. My lawyer's voice turned serious. The investigation is digging up more dirt on her. If this goes to court, she could be facing real prison time. This is her way of trying to get ahead of it. I tapped my fingers against my desk, considering. If I took the money, this could all be over. But then again, why would I do her any favors? "Tell them I'll think about it," I said. But in my heart, I already knew my answer. Rachel and her family had tried to destroy me, and I wasn't done watching them fall. I let Rachel's mother sweat. She thought she could buy her way out of this mess, that I'd take her hush money and walk away quietly. But that's the problem with people like her. They always assume money fixes everything. It didn't. Not this time. I ignored the settlement offer. Didn't even acknowledge it. Let them wonder. Let them panic. And while they were waiting for my response, I made my next move. I had proof, bank statements, fraudulent transactions, stolen funds, all tied directly to Rachel's mother. She had used my money like it was her personal piggy bank, funding a lifestyle she never actually earned. Now, it was time for everyone to know. The first thing I did? I sent everything to the police. They already had an open investigation, but now they had even more documents, emails, concrete proof that she had been dipping into accounts that didn't belong to her. This wasn't just fraud anymore. It was theft on a massive scale. Next, I leaked everything online. It started with a simple post. Imagine getting thrown out of your own wedding, only to find out your future in-laws stole your money too. Wild, right? Here's the proof. Attached? Screenshots, bank statements, receipts. It didn't take long before the post exploded. People who had attended the wedding chimed in, confirming what happened. I was there. The groom was literally told to leave or watch from the audience, while another guy took his place. They took all his money and expected him to just disappear. Unreal. Wait, so she knew her mom was stealing from him this whole time? And she just let it happen? The story went viral. Rachel's family had always been obsessed with their public image, but now that image was completely shattered. People dug up old skeletons, pulling out previous lawsuits, shady business dealings, even old complaints from employees who had worked for Rachel's father. Her father's business lost multiple clients overnight. Her mother's name was dragged through the mud, with local news outlets picking up the fraud case. And Rachel? She became a joke. The texts started pouring in. First, from Rachel. "What the hell did you do?" Ignored. Then, from her brother. The same alpha that was supposed to replace me. "Bro, this is getting out of control. You need to take the post down." I laughed. He thought he still had the right to tell me what to do? Ignored. Then, finally, Rachel's father. His message was longer, more careful. "Matthew, I know things got out of hand, but this has gone too far. I understand you're angry, but this is damaging our family's reputation. If we can sit down and talk, maybe we can work something out." So now, when it's his family's reputation on the line, he suddenly wants to be reasonable? I replied with one sentence. "You should have thought about that before your wife stole from me." No response. The next morning, my lawyer called again. "Matthew, they upped their offer. $75,000. I smirked. "Oh, they getting nervous?" "Very," she confirmed. Between the fraud case and the public fallout, They're desperate to make this disappear. I leaned back, considering it. 75 grand was more than what they stole from me. I could take the money, close the chapter, and move on richer than before. But then, I asked myself, would they have ever done the same for me? Would they have given me a way out if the roles were reversed? No. Rachel's family had never cared about anyone but themselves. They would have bled me dry, taken everything, and left me in the dirt without a second thought. So, I made my decision. Decline the offer, I said. My lawyer hesitated. Are you sure? We could negotiate for more. I'm not here to negotiate, I said firmly. I'm here to watch them fall. She exhaled, then chuckled. You're ruthless. I smiled. I'm just getting started. The next day, the police officially pressed charges against Rachel's mother. She was looking at prison time. Rachel's father tried to distance himself from the scandal, but the damage was done. Investors pulled out, deals collapsed. His company took a massive financial hit. Rachel? She had nowhere to go. Her friends abandoned her. No one wanted to be associated with someone whose entire life was publicly exposed as a scam. Her family turned against each other. And me? I had one. I had taken everything back, my dignity, my money, my life. And they had lost everything. The fallout from my post and the fraud investigation was relentless. Every day, new headlines, new rumors, and new consequences surfaced for Rachel and her family. What had once been a well-respected family in their social circles was now a public scandal, and no amount of damage control could stop it. Rachel had gone silent after our last conversation, but I knew she was watching everything crumble. I wasn't done yet. One night, as I was sitting in my living room, enjoying a drink, my phone buzzed. Rachel. I stared at her name on the screen, debating whether to answer. She had nothing left. I knew why she was calling. She had reached her breaking point. I let it ring twice before picking up. Her voice was small, weak. Matthew, please don't hang up. I took a slow sip of my drink. Why would I hang up? I want to hear what you have to say. A shaky breath. I lost everything. I exhaled through my nose. No, Rachel. You threw everything away. Silence. Then, her voice broke. I don't know what to do. My father barely looks at me. My mom is being dragged through hell. I can't even leave the house without someone recognizing me. People whisper about me everywhere I go. That must be awful, I said flatly. She sniffled. I deserve it, don't I? I swirled my drink, watching the ice clink against the glass. Do you really want me to answer that? A pause. Then, softly, I was wrong. I raised an eyebrow. About what? Her voice was thicker with emotion now. Everything. The way I treated you. The way I let my family treat you. I thought I was making the right choice. I thought my mom knew best. But she only cared about herself. And now, she's ruined everything. I let the words settle between us. Then, I asked the one question that had been on my mind since the beginning. Rachel, when your mother told me to leave my own wedding, did you even consider stopping her? Silence. A beat. Then another. Then, she started crying. And that told me everything I needed to know. I let out a small chuckle. I already knew the answer. I just wanted to hear you say it. She sounded broken. I thought you'd be fine. I thought you'd move on. I didn't think it would get this bad. I smiled coldly. You thought I'd disappear. That I'd just let you and your family take everything from me. Replace me, humiliate me. You didn't think there'd be consequences. I know. I let out a slow breath. And now you're here, begging me to stop? I don't want to be alone, Matthew. I smirked. You should have thought about that before you let them push me out. She let out a shaky sob. I was selfish. I was stupid. I didn't see what I had until it was gone. I took another sip of my drink, feeling nothing but satisfaction. And what exactly do you want from me, Rachel? An apology? Forgiveness? A second chance? She didn't answer. Because we both knew what she wanted. And we both knew she wasn't going to get it. I don't hate you, Rachel, I said finally. I just don't care anymore. A small gasp, like she had been stabbed in the heart. Goodbye, Rachel. And then, I hung up. That was the last time I ever spoke to her. Over the next few weeks, her life continued to fall apart. Her mother was officially indicted for fraud. The case was moving forward, and she was facing jail time. Her father's business collapsed. With so much bad press, their clients had all but abandoned them. And Rachel? She was truly alone. No money, no family support, no future. She had played her hand, and she had lost. One day, I got another message. It was from her brother, the same guy who was supposed to replace me at the wedding. I should have seen it sooner. My family only cares about themselves. I was just a pawn, too. I'm sorry for everything, man. You were right. I didn't reply. He wasn't worth my time. None of them were. Weeks had passed since I last heard from Rachel, but her downfall hadn't stopped. It had only gotten worse. Her mother was now officially facing trial. The fraud case had escalated, and news outlets were all over it. Every detail about the stolen funds, the illegal transactions, and her past shady dealings was being exposed to the public. Her father? Drowning in debt. The bad publicity surrounding the case had ruined his reputation, and his business was bleeding money. Investors had cut ties. Former clients had backed out of deals. He had no way to recover. And Rachel? She was nowhere to be found. Rumors swirled that she had moved in with a distant relative, trying to escape the humiliation. Her social media accounts were wiped clean. Her once lavish lifestyle completely gone. She had lost everything, and I had never felt more at peace. One evening, I was sitting in my apartment, watching the city lights from my balcony, when my phone buzzed. I glanced down. A text message. From Rachel. I sighed, debating whether to open it. But curiosity won. I clicked the message, and my smirk grew wider as I read it. I don't expect you to reply. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I know it doesn't change anything, but I had to say it. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I threw it away. I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I stared at the message for a moment. Then, I deleted it. No response. No acknowledgement. Nothing. Because I had already won. Later that week, I received another message. This time, from Rachel's alpha brother. The same man who was supposed to replace me. I don't know if you'll even read this, but I just want to say, you were right about everything. My family used me just like they used you. They never cared about anyone but themselves. I thought I was better than you, but the truth is, I was just another pawn. I see that now. I'm sorry, man. I hope you find real happiness. I stared at my screen for a moment, then chuckled. What a joke. The same man who had stood there on my wedding day, ready to take my place, was now groveling. Pathetic. I didn't reply. He wasn't worth it. The final nail in the coffin came when the news broke that Rachel's mother had officially lost her trial. Guilty. She was sentenced to prison. Rachel's family was ruined beyond repair. No more wealth. No more power. No more influence. They were nothing now. And I was free. One night, I was walking through the city when I passed by the same venue where my wedding was supposed to take place. A different wedding was happening there. A happy couple, surrounded by real friends and family who actually cared about them. I watched for a moment, then smiled. That could have been me, but it wasn't. And thank God for that. Because Rachel thought she had taken everything from me. But in the end, I was the one who truly won. I woke up the next morning with an unfamiliar feeling. Peace. No more stress. No more anger. No more unfinished business. Everything that needed to happen had already played out. Rachel was gone. Her family was in ruins. Justice had been served, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could finally breathe. I stepped out onto my balcony, sipping my coffee as the city came to life below me. The weight of everything, the betrayal, the humiliation, the rage, was no longer there. It had been replaced by something lighter, something better. I had won, not just against Rachel, against the version of myself who would have once let this destroy him. And that was the best victory of all. Later that day, I received one last message. From Rachel. I sighed, debating whether to open it, but curiosity won. I clicked the message, and this time, it was shorter. I saw you last night. You looked happy. I guess that means you're really over me. I don't know what I expected, but it hurts more than I thought it would. I wish I could take everything back. I really do. But I know I can't. I just hope you find the happiness that I was too blind to give you. I read it once. then twice. Then, I did the same thing I had done with her previous messages. Deleted it. No response. No acknowledgement. Nothing. She was my past, and I wasn't looking back anymore. That evening, I went out to a bar with a few friends, something I hadn't done in far too long. For the first time in months, my mind wasn't on Rachel, her family, or their downfall. I wasn't thinking about revenge. I wasn't thinking about what had been taken from me. I was just living. And then, something unexpected happened. A woman approached our table, kind eyes, an easy smile, an energy that was nothing like Rachel's. She looked at me, a hint of curiosity in her expression. Mind if I sit here? I hesitated for half a second. Then, I smiled. Go ahead. And just like that, my new life began. Because Rachel thought she had ruined me. But in the end, she had set me free. I guess you could say I'm just a regular guy with a regular life. My name is David, and I've been married to Rachel for a little over a year now. To be honest, I still feel like the luckiest man alive every time I wake up and see her beside me. She's smart, kind, beautiful, and the kind of person who makes everything around her feel lighter, like the world is just easier when she's in it. From the moment we met, she had this way of making me feel like I could do anything, and when we said our vows, I meant every single word. I run a small car parts business that keeps me busy, but not overly so. It's just enough to make me feel like I'm doing something meaningful, while still giving me plenty of time to spend with Rachel. She works from home as a financial analyst, a fancy way of saying she's really good with numbers. Honestly, I don't understand half of what she does, but it's impressive. She's the kind of person who could probably balance the country's budget while sipping her morning coffee. Life has been good to us. We've fallen into this comfortable rhythm where everything just clicks. We wake up, share breakfast, and then dive into our respective days. Evenings are my favorite, though. We cook together. Well, Rachel cooks and I pretend to help, and then we either watch something on TV or sit on the patio, talking about everything and nothing. Sometimes we laugh until our sides hurt. Other times, we just enjoy the quiet. Now, I'd be lying if I said there weren't any challenges. Marriage isn't some fairy tale where everything is always perfect, and we're no exception. We've had our disagreements. Who doesn't? But we've always managed to work through them. What's different about Rachel and me, though, is how much we value each other. We don't let petty arguments linger. We talk things out, even if it's uncomfortable. One of the more interesting parts of being married to Rachel is navigating her social circle. Don't get me wrong. I like that she has her own group of friends. They're important to her, and by extension, they're important to me. But if I'm being completely honest, her friends can be a bit much. They're a tight-knit group, and I always feel like the outsider looking in when we're together. They've known Rachel for years, and I'm just the husband. There's one friend in particular who stands out, Lisa. She's the ringleader, the one who sets the tone for the group. If Lisa's in a good mood, everyone's laughing and having a great time. If she's not, the entire dynamic shifts, and the evening feels like walking on eggshells. She's got this air about her, like she's always in control, always one step ahead of everyone else. It's not that she's outright mean. Well, not at first. But there's a subtlety to her that makes you feel like you're being judged, even when she's smiling at you. Despite the occasional tension, I've tried my best to fit in. I know how much Rachel values her friendships, and I don't want to be the reason she feels torn. So, I show up at the dinners, the brunches, the gatherings. I smile, I make small talk, and I laugh at jokes that aren't all that funny. It's not always easy, but for Rachel, it's worth it. At least, that's what I thought. Looking back, maybe I should have trusted my instincts a bit more. Maybe I should have paid closer attention to the subtle ways Lisa would test the waters, the little digs disguised as compliments, the way she'd dominate conversations and steer them in directions that left me feeling like an afterthought. But at the time, I shrugged it off. I told myself it didn't matter because Rachel and I were happy, and that's all that counted. If only I'd known what was coming. If only I'd seen the storm brewing on the horizon. They say hindsight is 20/20, and in this case, they're absolutely right. What started as a seemingly innocent dinner invitation would turn out to be a moment that tested everything. My patience, my pride, and my marriage. But I'll get to that soon enough. For now, just know this. Life was good. Better than good. It was the kind of life you don't want to take for granted, the kind of life you fight to protect. And that's exactly what I was about to do, even if I didn't realize it yet. I remember the day Rachel mentioned the dinner like it was yesterday. It was a typical Tuesday evening, one of those quiet nights when nothing out of the ordinary was expected. I had just come home from work, exhausted but content, and Rachel was in the kitchen prepping a salad while humming along to some pop song playing on the radio. It was one of those moments that made me appreciate how simple and wonderful life could be. "Hey, David," she said, her voice light and casual. "Lisa and the girls are organizing a dinner at Lobby this Friday. You know, that fancy French place downtown? They said we should come." I paused, the TV remote halfway to my hand. "We?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. Usually, Rachel's group outings didn't involve me unless it was a major event like a birthday or an anniversary party. "Yes, we," she replied, laughing at my expression. "Apparently," Lisa insisted. "She said it's been a while since you joined us, and she thought it would be nice for you to spend some time with the group. You've been working so hard lately. You deserve a nice evening out." There it was, the first red flag. Lisa insisting on my presence? That didn't sit right with me. Lisa wasn't exactly known for her inclusive attitude, especially when it came to me. She'd always been polite enough, but I could tell she didn't think much of me. I didn't come from the same privileged background as most of Rachel's friends, and while Rachel never cared about that, Lisa's subtle comments over the years had made her feelings crystal clear. Still, I didn't want to make a fuss. "Sure," I said, shrugging. "Why not? It might be nice to see everyone." Rachel smiled, clearly pleased. "Great. It's at 7 p.m. "Oh, and Lisa mentioned it's going to be a little more formal than usual, so maybe wear your navy suit. You know, the one that makes you look like a movie star." I laughed at her attempt to butter me up but agreed. The suit was fine, and honestly, the thought of Rachel beaming at me all night made the idea of the dinner a little less daunting. The rest of the week passed uneventfully, but I couldn't shake the strange feeling in the back of my mind. Something about the invitation didn't sit right. Maybe it was the way Rachel had casually dropped Lisa's name as if that alone was supposed to convince me, or maybe it was just my gut telling me that this night wasn't going to be as simple as it seemed. Friday arrived, and as we got ready, Rachel seemed genuinely excited. She picked out a stunning green dress that made her look radiant, and I couldn't help but feel proud to have her by my side. "You're going to knock them dead," I said as we got into the car. She just smiled and squeezed my hand. We arrived at Lobby a little before 7 p.m. The restaurant was everything you'd expect from a high-end French establishment. Dim lighting, soft classical music playing in the background, and waiters who looked like they'd stepped out of a luxury magazine. Rachel's friends were already seated at a table near the center of the room, laughing and chatting like they owned the place. As we approached, I noticed something odd. The table was set for 8 people, and every seat was taken. I did a quick count to make sure I wasn't imagining things. Nope. 8 people, 8 seats. And Rachel and I made 10. Lisa spotted us and waved us over, her smile wide and full of something I couldn't quite place. "David, Rachel, so glad you could make it," she called out. Rachel stepped forward, returning Lisa's hug while I lingered awkwardly behind. Lisa," I said, motioning to the table. "I think there's been a mix-up. There's no seat for me." Lisa tilted her head, her smile never wavering. "Oh, didn't Rachel tell you? We only reserved for 8. But don't worry. I'm sure the staff can bring over an extra chair for you." The way she said it, so casual, like I was an afterthought, sent a chill down my spine. Rachel looked flustered, glancing between me and Lisa as if trying to figure out how to fix the situation. I didn't realize," she stammered. "I thought—" Lisa cut her off. "It's no big deal. David can sit on the end. Or, if it's easier, he can wait at the bar while we catch up. This is really more of a girls' thing anyway." There it was, the second red flag. I could feel my blood start to boil, but I forced myself to stay calm. I glanced at Rachel, hoping she'd step in and say something, anything, to defend me. But she just looked away, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "Don't worry about it," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I'll sort it out." I stepped away from the table, letting the humiliation sink in as I walked toward the bar. But as I took a seat and ordered a drink, one thought kept repeating in my mind. This wasn't just a mix-up. This was intentional. And I wasn't going to let it slide. Not this time. Let me tell you, sitting at the bar wasn't how I imagined that evening going. There I was, sipping a whiskey I didn't really want, while Rachel and her friends laughed and chatted a few feet away. From where I sat, I could see everything. The carefully laid table, the sparkling wine glasses, and of course, the 8 chairs filled with people who seemed perfectly content to pretend I didn't exist. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't angry. I was furious. But more than that, I was confused. What was the point of inviting me if there wasn't even a place for me at the table? It didn't take a genius to figure out this wasn't some innocent mistake. No, this was planned, probably by Lisa. And what stung the most wasn't even her audacity. It was Rachel's silence. From the moment we arrived, she hadn't said a word to defend me. Sure, she looked uncomfortable, maybe even embarrassed, but she hadn't stood up for me. Not once. That hit harder than any of Lisa's passive-aggressive comments ever could. As I sat there, I replayed the scene over and over in my mind. Lisa's smug smile. The way she dismissed me like I was some accessory Rachel had accidentally brought along. It's more of a girl's thing anyway, she'd said, as if I didn't belong. And the others? Not a single one of them had the decency to speak up. They just sat there, laughing at Lisa's jokes, sipping their overpriced wine, and pretending they hadn't just witnessed something incredibly rude. I watched as the waiter brought out the first course, a plate of something small and fancy that looked more like art than food. Lisa was in her element, commanding the conversation with her usual flair. She was leaning into her role as the queen bee of the group, throwing out stories about her latest vacation and name-dropping people I'd never heard of, but was supposed to be impressed by. Rachel, on the other hand, looked out of place. She laughed at the right moments and nodded along, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. It was subtle, but I knew her well enough to see it. She wasn't comfortable. She didn't belong there any more than I did. Eventually, the bartender wandered over, probably sensing I wasn't in the best mood. "Can I get you anything else?" he asked, his tone polite but professional. I shook my head. "I'm good, thanks." But I wasn't good. Not at all. I couldn't stop thinking about how this whole situation made me feel, like I was some sort of outsider in my own marriage. Rachel and I were supposed to be a team. We'd promised each other that. And yet, here I was, sitting on the sidelines while she sat at that table with people who clearly didn't respect me, or her, for that matter. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about me. It was about Rachel too. Lisa's little stunt wasn't just a dig at me. It was a power play. She wanted to remind Rachel, and probably everyone else, that she was in charge. That her opinion mattered more than anyone else's. And Rachel? She let it happen. Maybe not consciously, but by not standing up for me, or herself, she'd given Lisa exactly what she wanted. I took another sip of my drink, trying to calm the storm brewing inside me. I wanted to march over to that table, pull Rachel aside, and demand to know why she hadn't done anything. But I knew that wouldn't solve anything. It would just make things worse. So, I waited. The main course came and went. From where I sat, I could hear snippets of the conversation. Lisa was talking about some gala she'd attended, going into great detail about the designer dress she'd worn and the exclusive crowd she'd mingled with. It was all so shallow, so performative. I couldn't help but wonder what Rachel saw in these people. They weren't her equals, not really. Rachel was genuine, kind, and down to earth. She didn't need to prove her worth with designer clothes or exclusive dinner reservations. So why was she trying so hard to fit into their world? By the time dessert rolled around, I'd had enough. I put down my empty glass and made my way back to the table. As I approached, the laughter died down, and all eyes turned to me. "David," Lisa said, her voice dripping with faux surprise. "We were wondering where you'd gone. You missed such a lovely dinner." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "I didn't go anywhere, Lisa. I've been sitting at the bar all night. But thanks for noticing." Her smile faltered for just a second before she recovered. "Well, I hope you enjoyed yourself. It's such a shame we couldn't squeeze you in." I nodded, my gaze steady. "It's funny, isn't it? How there was enough room for 8 people, but not 9. Rachel's face turned red, and she opened her mouth to say something, but I held up a hand. It's fine. I'm not upset. I just wanted to say goodbye before I left. Rachel, I'll see you at home. And with that, I turned and walked out. As I stepped into the cool night air, I felt a mix of anger and relief. I didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was certain. Things couldn't stay the way they were. Something had to change. I drove home that night in silence, the tension from the dinner sitting heavily on my chest. I didn't want to explode in front of Rachel when she got home, so I decided to take a walk to clear my head. Fresh air sometimes helped me think, though this time, all it did was make me replay the evening over and over. Lisa's smug face, her condescending tone, the way she said, "It's such a shame we couldn't squeeze you in." It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. She wanted to send a message. I didn't belong. And the worst part? Rachel had just let it happen. When Rachel finally walked through the door later that night, I could tell she was uneasy. She hesitated in the doorway like she wasn't sure whether to approach me or give me space. I decided to let her speak first. "I'm sorry about tonight," she said softly, setting her purse down on the counter. I didn't realize Lisa would pull something like that. I turned to look at her, raising an eyebrow. "You didn't realize? Really? Rachel? This is Lisa we're talking about." Her shoulders slumped. I know she can be difficult, but I didn't think she'd do something so petty. I didn't know what to say without making a scene. I let out a humorless laugh. "A scene? Rachel, she humiliated me in front of everyone. And you were worried about making a scene?" She flinched at my tone, and for a moment, I regretted snapping. But the frustration bubbling inside me was too much to ignore. "Rachel, I'm your husband. We're supposed to have each other's backs, but tonight, I felt like I was on my own. Lisa might have been the one pulling the strings, but you let it happen. Do you realize how that feels?" She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it, clearly at a loss for words. After a long pause, she finally said, "I didn't mean to make you feel like that. I just didn't know how to handle it. Lisa, she's been a part of my life for so long, and sometimes it's easier to just let her win." "Let her win?" I repeated, my voice incredulous. "Rachel, this isn't a game. This is our marriage. If you let people like Lisa walk all over us, it doesn't just hurt me, it hurts us. Do you even see that?" She didn't answer. Instead, she sat down at the kitchen table, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the faint hum of the refrigerator. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I guess I've been so afraid of losing them that I didn't think about what it's costing me. That caught me off guard." "Losing them?" She nodded. "Lisa, the group, all of it. I've known them for so long, and they've always been, well, they've always been there. Even when they're difficult, even when Lisa acts the way she does, they're still a big part of my life. But tonight, I saw it differently. I saw how it affected you, and I realized," she trailed off, looking down at her hands. "I realized that maybe I've been holding on to the wrong things." Her words softened some of my anger, but they didn't erase it. "Rachel," I said, my tone firm but calm, "I get that Lisa's been a part of your life for a long time, but that doesn't give her the right to treat me, or you, like we're less than her. And it doesn't mean you have to keep letting it slide. You're better than that. We're better than that." She looked up at me, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I know," she said quietly. "I'm sorry, David. I really am. I'll talk to Lisa. I'll make it clear that this can't happen again." I nodded, though I wasn't entirely convinced. Words were easy, action was harder. But for now, I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. After all, Rachel wasn't the enemy here. Lisa was. And if Rachel was willing to take a stand, maybe we could finally put this whole mess behind us. But as the days passed, I couldn't shake the feeling that Lisa wasn't done yet. People like her never were. She thrived on control, on making others feel small. And something told me she wasn't going to let this go without a fight. And I wasn't going to let her win. Not this time. So, I waited. I watched. And I prepared myself for whatever came next. Because if Lisa wanted a battle, I was ready. But she wasn't going to drag Rachel, or me, down without a fight. I don't know what it was, But something shifted in me after that conversation with Rachel. Maybe it was the raw honesty in her voice, or maybe it was the way she admitted her fear of losing people who didn't deserve her loyalty. Whatever it was, it made me realize that I needed to stay calm, steady, and focused. If Lisa wanted to play games, I wasn't going to stoop to her level, but I also wasn't going to let her humiliate me again. Rachel said she'd talk to Lisa, but I didn't put much stock in that. Not because I didn't trust Rachel, I did, but because I knew Lisa too well by now. She wasn't the kind of person who backed down easily. She thrived on control, on manipulation, and most of all on attention. And if there was one thing she hated more than anything, it was losing her grip on someone she thought she owned. So, instead of dwelling on what might happen, I decided to observe. I wanted to see how far Lisa would go, how deep her need for control really ran. I wanted to understand her game, not just for my sake, but for Rachel's too. The first real test came a few days later when Rachel mentioned another dinner party. This one wasn't as formal as the last, but Lisa would be there, along with the rest of the group. Rachel seemed nervous when she brought it up, like she was bracing for me to say no. "Do you want to come?" she asked, her voice tentative. "I understand if you don't. After what happened last time." I looked at her for a moment, trying to gauge what she really wanted. Was she asking me to come because she thought it would help, or because she felt guilty? Either way, I could see the hesitation in her eyes. She wanted me there, but she was afraid of what might happen. "Yeah," I said finally. "I'll come." Rachel looked surprised. "You will?" "Of course," I said, giving her a small smile. "I'm not going to let Lisa, or anyone else, make me feel unwelcome. Besides, you're my wife. Where you go, I go." Her face softened, and for the first time in days, she looked genuinely relieved. "Thank you, David. That means a lot to me." The night of the dinner, I decided to approach things differently. I wasn't going to sit back and let Lisa control the narrative this time. Instead, I was going to observe, to watch how she interacted with everyone. Not just me, but the whole group. From the moment we arrived, it was clear that Lisa was in her element. She greeted everyone like she was hosting the event herself, even though the dinner was at another friend's house. Her laughter rang out across the room, loud and deliberate, drawing attention to herself at every opportunity. When Rachel and I walked in, Lisa's eyes lit up, not with warmth, but with something sharper, more calculating. She greeted Rachel with a hug, then turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "David," she said, her tone overly sweet. "So good to see you again. I'm glad you decided to join us." "Thanks for having me," I replied, matching her tone. "It's always a pleasure." The subtle tension between us was almost tangible, but I kept my cool. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of knowing she'd gotten under my skin. As the evening went on, I started to notice little things. The way Lisa would steer the conversation back to herself whenever someone else tried to talk. The way she'd throw in backhanded compliments, like telling Rachel, "You're so lucky David doesn't mind these kinds of events." Most men would hate being dragged along to something so fancy. I also noticed how the others responded to her. Some of them laughed nervously at her jokes, while others avoided eye contact altogether. It was clear that Lisa's dominance wasn't just about me. It was about the entire group. She thrived on their discomfort, on their unwillingness to challenge her. But what stood out the most was Rachel. She was quieter than usual, more reserved. She didn't laugh as much, and when she did, it felt forced. I could see her glancing at me every now and then, as if checking to make sure I was okay. By the time dessert was served, I'd learned everything I needed to know. Lisa wasn't just trying to humiliate me. She was trying to control Rachel too. She wanted to remind Rachel that she was the alpha, the one who called the shots. And in doing so, she was testing Rachel's loyalty. It was a game I'd seen before, but this time, I wasn't going to let her win. I wasn't going to let her manipulate Rachel into choosing between me and her so-called friends. When the night finally ended, Rachel and I walked to the car in silence. Once we were inside, she turned to me, her expression filled with worry. "How was it?" she asked hesitantly. I looked at her for a long moment before answering. "It was enlightening." She frowned. "Enlightening?" I nodded. "Yeah, I saw exactly what Lisa's trying to do. And Rachel, it's not just about me. It's about you two. She wants to control you, to keep you in her orbit. But you don't have to let her. You're stronger than that. Rachel didn't say anything right away, but I could see the gears turning in her mind. For the first time, I felt like she was starting to see things the way I did. And that was a start. As we drove home, I couldn't help but feel a sense of resolve. Lisa might have been playing her games, but I wasn't going to let her win. Not with Rachel. Not with me. Not with us. By the time the next dinner invitation came around, I was ready. I had spent enough time observing, watching Lisa's games unfold, and seeing how Rachel struggled to navigate the delicate balance between her marriage and her long-standing friendships. I decided that this time, things were going to be different. This time, I wouldn't let Lisa's little power plays go unanswered. Rachel brought it up one evening after dinner. She seemed hesitant, like she was walking on eggshells, and I could already guess why. "David," she began, her voice careful, "Lisa and the others are planning another dinner this weekend. It's at the new Italian place downtown. She asked if we'd like to come." I put down my coffee and looked at her. "She asked if we would like to come?" I repeated, emphasizing the we. Rachel nodded. "Yes, she did. I mean, I know how things have been lately, but maybe this is her way of trying to make amends." I raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. "Lisa? Make amends? Rachel, let's be honest here. That's not her style." She sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I know, but maybe if we go, things will be different. I don't want there to be tension anymore." Her words hit me in a way I didn't expect. I realized that Rachel wasn't just trying to appease Lisa. She was trying to protect our relationship from the strain Lisa was putting on it. And while part of me wanted to refuse, to avoid another evening of humiliation, I knew that staying home wasn't the answer. If we were going to move past this, we had to face it together. "All right," I said finally. "We'll go. But if Lisa pulls anything, I'm not going to sit there and take it." "Agreed?" Rachel nodded quickly, relief flooding her face. "Agreed. And thank you, David. I really appreciate it." When Saturday night rolled around, I dressed the part. A tailored suit, polished shoes, the works. If Lisa wanted to judge me, I'd give her nothing to work with. Rachel looked stunning in a deep red dress, and as we walked into the restaurant together, I felt a renewed sense of determination. This was my turning point. I wasn't just there to observe anymore. I was there to make it clear that I wouldn't be pushed around. The restaurant was elegant, all soft lighting and marble accents. Lisa and the group were already seated when we arrived, their laughter filling the space. As soon as Lisa saw us, she waved us over with that same too bright smile that always set my teeth on edge. "David, Rachel, so glad you could join us," she said, standing to give Rachel a quick hug. She turned to me with a smirk. "And David, I see you've dressed for the occasion. Very sharp." "Thanks, Lisa," I said evenly. Figured I'd rise to the level of the company I'm keeping. Her smirk faltered for just a second before she recovered. "Well, you've certainly made an effort." We took our seats, and the evening began. At first, things were surprisingly civil. Lisa kept the conversation light, steering clear of her usual digs. I wondered if Rachel had actually gotten through to her, or if she was just waiting for the right moment to strike. It didn't take long to find out. Midway through the second course, Lisa leaned back in her chair, swirling her wine glass as she spoke. "You know, Rachel," she began, her tone casual but pointed, "it's so wonderful that you and David can come to these events. It must be nice for him to experience something a bit upscale." There it was, the first jab of the night, wrapped in a thin layer of civility. I glanced at Rachel, whose cheeks had turned pink, but before she could respond, I decided to take control. "It is nice," I said, keeping my tone light. "But then again, upscale is all about perspective, isn't it? For some people, it's about the food and the atmosphere. For others, it's about how they treat the people around them." The table went quiet for a moment, and Lisa's smile froze in place. "Well," she said after a beat, "I suppose we all have our own definitions." We moved on, but the tension lingered. Lisa's jabs became subtler as the night went on, but each time, I countered them with calm, measured responses. I wasn't rude or confrontational, just firm enough to make it clear that I wasn't the easy target she thought I was. By the time dessert arrived, the balance of power at the table had shifted. Lisa was still trying to maintain her usual dominance, but it wasn't working. The others were less engaged with her and more interested in the conversation Rachel and I were having. For the first time, I felt like we weren't just enduring the evening, we were reclaiming it. As we left the restaurant that night, Rachel squeezed my hand. "You were amazing," she said quietly. "I don't know how you stayed so calm." I shrugged, a small smile playing on my lips. "Because it's not about fighting, Rachel. It's about showing people like Lisa that they don't have as much power as they think they do." Rachel nodded, her expression thoughtful. "You're right, and I think she knows it now." I didn't respond, but I couldn't help feeling a sense of satisfaction. Lisa might not have admitted defeat, but I could tell she felt it. This was the turning point I'd been waiting for, and I wasn't about to let her regain the upper hand. Not now. Not ever. The next time Lisa came into my life, she upped the stakes. This wasn't just another dinner or casual gathering. No, this time, she went for the grand gesture, one she thought would solidify her control over Rachel and humiliate me in the process. What she didn't realize was that I'd been waiting for this moment. It all started when Rachel told me Lisa was hosting a special dinner at L'Olivo, one of the most exclusive Italian restaurants in the city. The way Rachel described it, you'd think it was a royal gala. Lisa had apparently gone all out, arranging a private dining room and inviting a hand-picked group of her closest friends. I wasn't surprised when Rachel hesitated to bring it up. "She wants us to come," Rachel said one evening, her voice careful. "Well, she specifically said she wants you to come." I set down my coffee and looked at her, waiting for more. "She said it's her way of making peace," Rachel continued, avoiding my gaze. She thought a small, private dinner might be better than a big group setting. I raised an eyebrow. Lisa wants to make peace? Or Lisa wants to stage another performance? Rachel bit her lip, unsure how to respond. "I don't know, David. Maybe both. But I think it's worth giving her a chance." I could hear the hope in Rachel's voice, and while my gut told me Lisa wasn't done playing games, I agreed. Not because I believed Lisa had suddenly turned over a new leaf, but because I knew it was time to put an end to this once and for all. The night of the dinner, Rachel and I arrived at L'Olivo dressed for the occasion. She wore a sleek navy dress that brought out her eyes, and I had on my best suit, ready for whatever Lisa had planned. The restaurant was as upscale as they came, all marble floors and crystal chandeliers, the kind of place where you didn't see prices on the menu. We walked into the private dining room, and immediately, I knew something was off. Lisa and her friends were already seated at a large table, laughing and chatting like it was their personal playground. Every seat was filled. I scanned the room quickly. There was no chair for me. Not even an empty space where one could have been. Lisa saw us and waved, her smile wide and fake as ever. "David, Rachel, so glad you could make it." I glanced at Rachel, whose face flushed with embarrassment. She opened her mouth to speak, but Lisa beat her to it. "Oh, Rachel, I'm so sorry," Lisa said, her tone syrupy sweet. "I must have miscounted. We only have seats for 8. But don't worry, David can grab a spot at the bar. The cocktails here are divine." Rachel froze, caught between me and her friend, her expression a mix of anger and shame. I stepped forward, keeping my voice calm and even. "No need for the bar, Lisa. I'll take care of it." I turned and walked out of the room before Rachel could say anything, heading straight for the restaurant manager. He greeted me with a polite smile, but that smile widened when I introduced myself. "Mr. Thompson," he said, his voice filled with recognition. "It's an honor to meet you. How can I assist?" "I own this place," I said plainly. "There's a private party in your dining room that I need you to help me address." His eyes widened slightly, but he nodded. "Of course, sir. What do you need?" I told him what I wanted, and within minutes, the manager and I walked back into the private room. Lisa was mid-sentence, basking in the attention of her friends, when the manager interrupted. "Excuse me," he said, his tone professional yet firm. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. This dining room is reserved for Mr. Thompson and his guests. I'll have to ask your party to vacate the space." The room went silent. All eyes turned to me. Lisa blinked, her confusion quickly morphing into indignation. What are you talking about? I reserved this room weeks ago. The manager gestured toward me. Mr. Thompson owns the restaurant. He's graciously offered to cover your bill tonight, but this space belongs to him. Lisa's face turned bright red, and she stammered, You own this place? I nodded, my expression calm. Yes, Lisa, I do. And it seems there was indeed a miscount tonight, just not the kind you were expecting. The others at the table looked uncomfortable, exchanging glances as they realized what had happened. Rachel, meanwhile, sat frozen, clearly mortified. Now, if you'll excuse me, I said, turning to the manager, please arrange another table for these guests, somewhere more suitable. The manager nodded, ushering Lisa and her group out of the room. As they left, Lisa shot me a look that could have melted steel, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I turned to Rachel, who was still sitting quietly, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I'm sorry, she said softly, tears brimming in her eyes. I didn't know she would do this. I sat down beside her, my voice gentle but firm. Rachel, I know this is hard for you, but you have to see it for what it is. Lisa doesn't respect you, or us. This wasn't about a miscount. This was about control. She nodded slowly, wiping at her eyes. You're right. I didn't want to believe it. I know, I said, reaching for her hand. But we can't let people like Lisa dictate how we live our lives. You don't need her approval. You never did. Rachel looked at me, her expression filled with something I hadn't seen in a while, determination. You're right. I'll talk to her. I'll make it clear that this can't continue. For the first time, I felt like we were on the same page. Lisa's games had gone too far, and while I knew she wouldn't give up easily, I also knew that Rachel and I were stronger together. As we finished our evening in the private dining room, just the two of us, I realized that this wasn't just a victory for me. It was a turning point for our marriage. And I wasn't about to let Lisa take that away from us. The fallout from the dinner at Lalivo was a turning point for Rachel and me. The ride home that night was silent, both of us lost in our thoughts. I didn't push her to talk. I knew she needed time to process what had happened. Lisa's stunt had crossed every possible line, and for the first time, Rachel had seen it as clearly as I had. When we got home, Rachel finally broke the silence. She sat on the couch, her shoulders slumped, and looked at me with tears in her eyes. David, she began softly, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize how much Lisa has been manipulating us. I sat down beside her, giving her the space to speak. She continued, her voice trembling. I thought she was just being Lisa, you know, a little overbearing, a little bossy. But tonight, I saw it. She wasn't just trying to humiliate you. She was trying to make me choose, to prove that she could still control me. I nodded, letting her words sink in. Rachel, I've been trying to tell you this, but I didn't want to push too hard. I know how much your friendships mean to you. But Lisa? She doesn't want what's best for you. She wants what's best for her, and she's willing to hurt anyone who stands in her way, even you. Rachel wiped her eyes, her expression shifting from sadness to resolve. You're right. I see that now. And I'm done letting her do this. I'm done letting her make me feel small, or like I have to earn her approval. I don't need her in my life if it means sacrificing the respect we have for each other. Her words were like a weight lifting off my chest. For so long, I'd felt like I was fighting this battle alone. But now, Rachel was with me. She wasn't just apologizing. She was taking a stand. And for the first time, I truly believed that things could change. The next day, Rachel called Lisa. She didn't tell me exactly what was said, but when she hung up, she looked relieved. It's done, she said simply. I told her that her behavior was unacceptable and that I need space. If she can't respect me, or us, then there's no place for her in my life. I could see how hard that conversation had been for Rachel, but I was proud of her. She'd taken control, not just for me, but for herself. And in doing so, she'd set a boundary that Lisa couldn't cross. The weeks that followed felt like a breath of fresh air. Without Lisa's toxic influence hanging over us, Rachel and I grew closer. We started spending more time together, rediscovering the joy that had brought us together in the first place. Our evenings became lighter, filled with laughter and meaningful conversations. It was as if a dark cloud had lifted, allowing us to see each other more clearly than ever. Social events with Rachel's other friends became more enjoyable too. Without Lisa dominating the dynamic, the group felt more relaxed and genuine. People who had once been hesitant to engage with me now opened up, and I found myself actually looking forward to these gatherings. It turned out that not everyone in Rachel's circle shared Lisa's toxic tendencies. They had just been overshadowed by her presence. One night, as we were getting ready for a party, Rachel turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "You know," she said, adjusting her earrings, "I've been thinking about Lisa a lot lately. Not in a bad way, just reflecting." I raised an eyebrow. "Reflecting?" She nodded. "I used to think she was this larger-than-life figure, someone I needed to impress to feel like I belonged. But now I see that she's just flawed. Insecure, maybe. She uses control and manipulation to mask her own fears. And while I don't excuse what she's done, I can't bring myself to hate her. I actually hope she finds her way." Her words surprised me, but they also reminded me why I fell in love with her. Rachel had always been compassionate, even in the face of hurt. "You're a better person than most," I said, smiling. "But don't forget, you're not responsible for fixing her." She nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "I know. She has to figure that out for herself." As we arrived at the party, I couldn't help but notice how different everything felt. The atmosphere was light, the conversations genuine, and for once, there was no underlying tension. Rachel was glowing, her laughter filling the room, and I felt a deep sense of pride knowing she had reclaimed her confidence. Toward the end of the night, one of Rachel's friends approached me. "You know," she said, "it's been really nice having you around lately. Without certain distractions, it's easier to see how great you and Rachel are together." I smiled, grateful for her words. "Thanks. I think we're in a good place now." As we drove home that night, Rachel turned to me with a soft smile. "I don't think I've ever been this happy," she said. "Not just with us, but with everything. It feels peaceful." I reached for her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "That's because we've found our balance. And no one, not Lisa, not anyone, can take that away from us." And that was the truth. Lisa's absence had been a gift in disguise, forcing us to confront the cracks in our relationship and come out stronger on the other side. While I couldn't say I wished her well with complete sincerity, I hoped she found the peace she needed, somewhere far away from us. For now, Rachel and I were content to enjoy the life we'd built together, free from toxicity and filled with mutual respect. We'd learned an important lesson. Sometimes, the hardest battles aren't the ones we fight against others. They're the ones we fight within ourselves. And together, we'd won.